In the wake of Michael Cohen's testimony, there is a strange, congealing conventional wisdom about what impeachment of President Trump would mean political. And it's not strange because it's necessarily wrong. The notion is that the Democrats have a dilemma on their hands because while there seems to be evidence the president committed a crime or more, there's a strong impulse among many to pursue impeachment. There are possible political risks in doing so. And all of that may be true enough, but it also kind of misses the point. And there is something odd about framing the president's criminality as a problem for Democrats. As journalist Dan Froomkin writes, by any normal standard, Trump has committed numerous impeachable offenses. Special counsel Robert Mueller is almost assuredly going to tell us about many more. And if impeachment is the remedy to a manifestly unfit president, it's long overdue. Joining me now is independent accountability journalist Dan Froomkin, editor of White House Watch, along with former Congresswoman Elizabeth Holtzman, who served on the House Judiciary Committee, which voted to impeach Richard Nixon, and is author of A Case for Impeaching Trump. Dan, I really liked your piece. What were you trying to get out there?
Well, I'm really disappointed in the coverage of the topic of impeachment in sort of the mainstream media. They tend to cover it as just sort of a horse race, as a political story about optics. When will the Democrats do it? Will they? Will there be a backlash? And I think that the country is actually in need of a really full-throated discussion about, has Donald Trump committed impeachable offenses? What are they? They need to be laid out in front of the country by Congress. And whether you call this, there's a big difference between impeachment and impeachment hearings or investigative hearings or a select committee investigation of impeachment. I think those are necessary. And instead, the press is talking about, will the Democrats, are they ready for a backlash or what have you? I think it's crazy.
What do you think, Liv?
Well, I agree with Dan. I mean, this is a really important conversation to be had. The problem is, as I see it, is that Donald Trump is a genius at just throwing facts against the wall, I should say lies, against the wall every single day, and new facts about criminality, misconduct come out every single day, and it's impossible for the public to absorb this and put it into a narrative. And that's what really needs to be done. But I think the other thing is the Democrats need to stop thinking about the Clinton impeachment and go back to the roadmap that was created in the Nixon impeachment effort. And there, what happened was you had a Senate Select Committee. They did some very, very important work. They educated the public. They had the key witnesses were there in public. They framed the issues for the public. Did the president orchestrate the cover-up? Did he know about the cover-up, or didn't he? And so when the Saturday Night Massacre happened and the special prosecutor was fired, the American people said, enough is enough.
Dan, what do you think about the relationship between the sort of impeachment as a political process and the Democrats in the House and the Mueller report? Because I think that's one of the most vexed part of this. I think there's a sense in which Democrats will say we have to wait for the Mueller report, and I understand that at one level, but it also seems like outsourcing of a constitutional duty that is just fundamentally and firmly theirs.
Right. I mean, I think there's certainly an understandable thinking process that a lot more will come out when the Mueller report comes out, which I think is a reasonable expectation. But that shouldn't forestall their investigation. There's no reason why they have to wait until the Mueller report is out to begin investigating all sorts of things much more openly than they have. I mean, to Liz's point, I think that the antidote to, the crazy coverage of what does Trump lie about now, what did he say now, is putting this in the context of impeachment and putting in the narrative of what happened to what did the president do, what is he doing, what is he lying about now.
Right.
Sorry.
Well, I think one of the key things to start out with is you don't have to commit a crime to have an impeachable offense. Yeah. The whole second article of impeachment, there were 3 articles of impeachment against Nixon. The whole second article was about abuse of power. It did not talk about crime. Even the first article did not mention criminal code. So we don't need that. What people have to understand is that, yes, right now you have the outlines of a number of impeachable offenses. What Congress has to do is strategically fill in the facts. It's like you have the outline of a puzzle, put the facts in. They're not doing that yet.
Right. And I mean, we should say that the House Oversight Committee had this big public hearing. It was the first public hearing of its kind. They're now talking about calling other people. Felix Sater is going to be testifying publicly. Part of the issue, though, to your point, Liz, is that there is no select committee. There's no sort of central warehouse. And to your point, Dan, impeachment itself actually provides a narrative framework, because if the question is, that's the thing that you're filling in. Otherwise, it's sort of scattered.
Right, and it's important for the press to keep reminding you of that, because otherwise it becomes too normalizing of this very abnormal presidency.
Do you think there's what do you think about the political point that is being made about Democrats? I mean, I can't sort of figure out the degree to which that is a kind of story from the outside and how much it's actually reflective of an organic sort of thing that they're working through.
I think it's a legitimate story to some extent. I mean, I think they do have a political conundrum on their hands, but that is so far and above not the issue that I think we should be discussing front and center.
You know, the thing that I keep coming back to is just the straightforward and simple story right in front of us, which is that the president's henchman, fixer, bagman, lawyer already pleaded guilty to a federal felony that he's going to do time for, that he says was directed by the president, that he has evidence was done by the president. He has a phone recording conspiring with the president to do, that he has a check that the president wrote him to pull off, and said crime was committed in pursuit of the election itself. Like, that's it. That's on its face. That's all right there.
It could well be an impeachable offense. But there are other things that he has done. For example, all of the efforts to dangle pardons in front of people to keep them from cooperating with Mueller. That was part of the impeachment of Richard Nixon. All the efforts to shut down the investigation. That was part of what the articles of impeachment were. So you just people need to know that. You don't have to have a crime. But
and also there's you know, there the emoluments issue.
Yes, of course.
There is the issue that Liz describes of just having a totally inappropriate response to the Russian hacking. I mean, her book is a litany of really terrific examples of if your benchmark is Nixon, even by Nixonian standards, this guy is ripe.
Well, and part of the issue here, right, is this basic conceptual question we keep coming back to. What are we talking about? What is the thing that's an impeachable offense? Is that the category of the federal criminal code?
No, definitely not. Definitely not. You don't have to. The whole Nixon impeachment never mentioned violation of a single statute. It's really important to understand that. Never mention the violation of any statute.
Why not? Why that choice?
Because we don't want to be bound. Congress can't be bound by what's in the criminal law.
Because it's a completely different proceeding.
Correct. Not only a different proceeding, but the idea is an impeachable offense is an egregious abuse of power, misuse of the power of the office of the presidency. And that's the key.
That's the deep constitutional question. I will note that one of the articles of impeachment against Andrew Johnson, the first president to be impeached, was basically about how he talked about Congress and how he lied. Literally, it was about his rhetoric. Dan Froomkin and Elizabeth Holtzman, thank you both.